Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into something really practical, the surprising power of atomic habits. We've looked at the sources you sent us, and our mission really is to figure out how these tiny, almost invisible changes can, well, stack up to create huge results in your life. And maybe the best way to start is with a pretty dramatic story. Imagine being a promising high school athlete, baseball star, really dreaming big, and then out of nowhere, a loose bat flies through the air and hits you square in the face. That's exactly what happened to the author behind some of our material today. We're talking a broken nose, multiple facial fractures, serious stuff, even seizures. He had double vision for weeks, couldn't see straight. Took him, 8 months just to drive a car again? And the real kicker. A year later, after all that recovery, he gets cut from the varsity team. Just devastating. He said he sat in his car and just cried, felt completely humiliated. Now that sounds like game over for most people. But it clearly wasn't for him. What did he actually take away from that really awful experience?
Yeah, it was definitely a turning point. It taught him something profound, actually, that these small, maybe even insignificant changes, when you stick with them day after day, they compound, they build up into really remarkable results. He basically learned that tiny shifts could lead to huge transformations, and that's the heart of these atomic habits we're exploring.
Okay, and to really hammer this home, there's that incredible example of the British cycling team around 2003. Before this new approach, they were, well, let's be honest, pretty terrible. Since 1908, only one Olympic gold. No Brit had ever won the Tour de France. It got so bad that a major bike manufacturer actually refused to sell them bikes. They thought it would damage their brand. So what was this radical idea that flipped everything?
It really is an amazing story, isn't it? Their new performance director, Dave Brailsford, came in with this idea he called the aggregation of marginal gains. His philosophy was simple, but relentless. Break down everything that goes into riding a bike, every single tiny component, and then improve each one by just 1%.
1%. That seems so small.
Exactly. That's the point. We're talking redesigning bike seats for a bit more comfort, testing tire compounds for slightly better grip, finding the absolute best massage gel for muscle recovery. He even apparently painted the inside of the team truck white
White. Why white?
to spot any tiny specks of dust that could potentially get into the bike mechanics and slow things down just fractionally. Obsessive attention to detail.
Wow. And the results, they speak for themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Just 5 years after Brailsford started, Beijing Olympics, 2008, the British team won something like 60% of the available gold medals. Incredible. Then, 2012 in London, they smashed it again. 9 Olympic records, 7 world records. And that same year, Bradley Wiggins. First British cyclist ever to win the Tour de France. Then Chris Froome won it 4 more times in the next 5 years. Total dominance.
Okay, just think about that shift. Nearly 100 years of, well, mediocrity to completely dominating the sport in less than a decade. So the big question for you listening is, how did they do it with just tiny changes? And maybe more importantly, how can you use that same idea in your own life to reach your goals?
It's a really common trap, isn't it? We tend to overestimate the impact of one big defining moment or action, and we totally underestimate the power of making small improvements consistently every single day. We think success needs this massive, heroic effort.
That's so true. I think we all feel that pressure sometimes.
Yeah.
So what's the biggest thing people miss about just getting, say, 1% better each day?
It's that compounding effect. People just don't intuitively grasp how powerful it is over time. Like if you actually get 1% better each day for a year, you end up almost 37 times better than where you started. It's huge. But the flip side is true too. Get 1% worse each day and you decline almost down to nothing. It really is like compound interest for self-improvement. The true impact, good or bad, only really shows up years later.
And it makes you think differently about where you are right now, doesn't it? Like your current results aren't nearly as important as your current trajectory. You could be a millionaire, but if you're spending more than you earn every month, that trajectory is, well, it's not good.
Exactly. Or you could be broke today, but if you start saving just a tiny bit each month, even if it feels painfully slow, you're on the right path. Your trajectory is pointing up. And this really highlights how habits are, a double-edged sword. Good ones build you up. Productivity compounds. Knowledge compounds. Warren Buffett talks about this, right? How knowledge builds like interest. Relationships compound too, being just a little kinder, a little more present each time. That adds up to strong connections.
But the bad ones.
They cut you down just as effectively, just as subtly. Small compromises, bad choices, they also compound downwards.
Which leads perfectly into this idea of the valley of disappointment. You put in the effort day after day, but you don't see results immediately. And that's so frustrating.
It really is. It's like an ice cube. You can warm it from 25 degrees to 31 degrees, and nothing looks different. It's still ice. But then you hit 32 degrees, just one more degree, same amount of effort as the previous degrees, and boom, it starts melting. Huge, visible change.
That's the tipping point.
That's the tipping point. It's where all that sustained, often invisible effort finally breaks through, but you have to get through the valley first.
And that valley, that lack of immediate reward, is maybe why just setting big goals can sometimes backfire. It's why we need to kind of shift our focus. Forget the big goal for a second, get in shape, build a business, and instead focus on the systems that get you there.
Yeah, think about it like a basketball coach. If the coach ignored the big goal winning the championship and focused entirely on what the team does at practice every single day, their system, well, they'd still get results, wouldn't they? Bill Walsh, the famous football coach, said, "The score takes care of itself. Focus on the process."
Right. Goals set the direction, but systems are what actually make the progress.
Exactly. Goals point the way. Systems are the engine.
And if you look closely, traditional goal setting actually has some real problems. First off, winners and losers often have the exact same goals. Every single athlete at the Olympics wants the gold medal, right?
Ambition isn't enough. Success came for British cycling when they built that system of tiny improvements, not just because they wanted to win.
Second problem, goals tend to postpone happiness. You think, okay, I'll be happy when I reach this goal.
But if you focus on the system, you can feel satisfied just knowing your system is running. You find enjoyment in the process itself, not just the outcome.
And the third thing, the yo-yo effect. Goals can clash with long-term progress.
Totally. Think about marathon runners. They train like crazy, cross the finish line, and then often stop training completely.
Because the game is done.
Exactly. When everything is focused on that one specific goal, what keeps you going afterwards? The purpose of a goal is to win the game. The purpose of a system is to keep playing the game. So true long-term thinking is almost like goalless thinking. It's about continuous refinement, never really being done.
Which brings us right back to the core idea, atomic habits. What exactly are they?
There are these regular practices, these routines that are, yes, small and easy to do, that's key, but they're also the source of incredible power because they're the building blocks, the atoms of that compound growth we talked about. They seem tiny alone, but together they fuel massive wins.
Okay, so how do we actually change our habits? Because we all know it can be really hard.
Well, a big reason it's hard is that we often focus on the wrong thing. We focus on outcomes like losing weight or getting a promotion, or we focus on processes, the specific actions like going to the gym or making sales calls.
But there's a deeper level.
There is. The most powerful level for change is identity, focusing on who you believe you are.
Identity. Okay, explain that. Why is focusing on who you believe you are so much more effective?
Because fundamentally, our beliefs about ourselves drive our actions. If you try to adopt a behavior that doesn't align with your self-image, your identity, well, it just won't stick. There's a great story about Brian Clark, an entrepreneur who'd bitten his nails his whole life. He tried quitting with willpower, didn't last, but what finally worked, getting his first manicure, suddenly he started taking pride in his nails. His identity shifted from "I'm a nail biter" to "I'm someone who takes care of my nails."
So he changed the underlying belief.
Exactly, and he never bit them again. The behavior change followed the identity shift.
So it's less about the action itself and more about becoming the kind of person who does that action. The goal isn't just reading a book, it's becoming a reader, not just running a marathon, becoming a runner.
Precisely. Every action you take is like casting a vote for the type of person you want to become. Your habits literally shape your identity over time.
And the flip side of that must be identity conflict, right?
Yeah.
If you try to build a good habit, but deep down, it clashes with who you think you are.
You're going to struggle massively. If you think, "I'm just not an organized person," trying to implement a complex organizational system will feel like fighting yourself. The solution: you have to be willing to edit your beliefs, upgrade your identity, keep it flexible. Instead of saying, "I'm a baseball player," which, as we saw, can be taken away, maybe it's, "I'm the type of person who's mentally tough and loves a challenge." That identity is more resilient.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So if identity is key, how do we actually build the habits that shape that identity? Where does the process start?
Well, it goes way back. In 1898, a psychologist named Edward Thorndike did these experiments with cats in puzzle boxes. He had put a cat in a box and had to figure out how to escape maybe pull a lever or step on a plate to get a reward, like food.
And what happened?
The cats gradually got faster at escaping. They learned that certain actions led to satisfying results. Thorndike found that behaviors followed by satisfying consequences tend to be repeated. It's fundamental learning.
So our brains are basically wired to automate solutions to problems we face repeatedly.
Exactly. Feeling stressed, maybe going for a walk calms you down. Your brain notes that. Feeling bored, maybe scrolling social media gives you a quick hit. Brain notes that too. It learns what works to change your state and automates it to save effort. It builds these neural pathways, these habits.
And this leads to a specific pattern, right? A loop.
Yes, a 4-step loop that every single habit follows, good or bad. It starts with 1. The cue. This is the trigger, the bit of information that predicts a reward. Your phone buzzes, you smell coffee, you walk into a dark room. 2. The craving. This is the motivation, the desire. Importantly, you don't crave the habit itself, you crave the change in state it provides. Relief, alertness, entertainment, connection. 3. The response. This is the actual habit you perform, a thought or an action. Whether you act depends on motivation, ability, and how much friction is involved. 4. The reward. This is the payoff. It satisfies the craving and, crucially, teaches your brain, hey, that worked. Remember this action for next time.
Cue, craving, response, reward, and all 4 need to be there.
All 4 are essential. If any step is weak or missing, the loop breaks, and the behavior won't become an automatic habit. No cue. The habit never starts. No craving, no motivation. Too difficult, you won't do it. Reward isn't satisfying, you won't repeat it.
Okay, so this 4-step model isn't just theory. It gives us a practical framework.
Exactly. It leads directly to what we call the 4 laws of behavior change, a blueprint for engineering good habits and dismantling bad ones.
And those 4 laws are?
Simple but powerful. To build a good habit. First law, make it obvious, deals with the cue. Second law, make it attractive, deals with the craving. Third law, make it easy, deals with the response. Fourth law, make it satisfying, deals with the reward.
And to break a bad habit, you just invert them. Make it invisible, unattractive, difficult, unsatisfying.
Precisely. You have the controls.
All right, let's dive into the first law. Make it obvious. How do cues work on us, often without us even realizing?
Well, our brains are incredible prediction machines. They're constantly scanning the environment, learning to associate cues with outcomes, mostly non-consciously. Think about experienced paramedics who can sometimes just sense if someone's having a heart attack before the obvious symptoms, or military analysts spotting subtle patterns on radar. Their brains have learned to pick up on tiny, almost invisible cues through repetition.
So for our everyday habits, the cues can become invisible too. We just find ourselves doing things.
Exactly. Grabbing that cookie from the counter, checking your phone constantly, the cue, seeing the cookies, feeling the phone vibrate triggers the habit so automatically it feels like the urge just appears out of thin air. Carl Jung had that great quote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." We need awareness.
So how do we make the unconscious conscious? How do we raise that awareness?
A really simple but effective tool is the Habits Scorecard. Just literally list out your daily habits. Walk through your day, wake up, check phone, neutral, bad. Brush teeth, good. Make coffee, good. Be honest. It forces you to actually see what you're doing.
Like that pointing and calling system in Japanese railways you mentioned.
Exactly. That's a fantastic real-world example. The train operators physically point at signals and verbally call out the status. Signal is green. It seems redundant, but using multiple senses, sight, speech, hearing, touch, drastically increases awareness and cuts errors by up to 85% apparently.
Wow, that's huge for such a simple action. I guess even just saying it out loud helps.
It does. My wife does this when packing. She'll literally say, got my keys, got my wallet, got my glasses. It forces a moment of conscious attention, makes her less likely to forget something vital.
Okay, so becoming aware is step 1. What about the environment itself? You mentioned cues are often environmental.
Hugely important. Your environment is like the invisible hand shaping your behavior. Think about that hospital cafeteria study.
Right, the one where they just put more water bottles out.
Yeah. They didn't lecture anyone about drinking less soda. They just made water more obvious and convenient, added it to the soda fridges, put baskets of water near the food. And what happened? Soda sales dropped over 11%. Water sales jumped nearly 26%. Just by changing the environment's cues.
Because vision is such a dominant sense for us, right?
It really is. A huge chunk of our brain power goes to processing visual information. So visual cues are incredibly powerful triggers, like those homes in the Netherlands where they put the electric meters in the main hallway instead of the basement. People naturally use less energy just because their consumption was obvious.
So the actionable advice for you listening is redesign your environment. Make the cues for your good habits obvious.
Exactly. Want to take vitamins? Put the bottle right next to your toothbrush. Want to practice guitar? Take it out of the case, put it on a stand in the living room. Want to drink more water? Fill up bottles and put them everywhere you usually sit.
Make the right choice, the easy, visible choice.
And remember, too, that habits often get linked to the entire context, not just one single cue. Like maybe you only smoke when you're out with certain friends at a bar. It's not just seeing a cigarette. It's the friends, the place, the time of day. The whole context becomes the cue.
Which explains why it can be easier to change habits when you change your environment, like going on vacation or moving house.
Absolutely. You escape the old triggers. It's often easier to build a new habit in a new place because you're not fighting those old ingrained cues. If you can't change your whole environment, try dedicating specific spaces for specific tasks, like this chair is only for reading, this desk is only for work.
The one space, one use idea helps create clear contextual cues.
Exactly. It partitions your environment and your habits.
Okay, that covers making it obvious. Let's move to the second law. Make it attractive. How does this work?
Well, this taps into how our brains are wired for reward. Modern life bombards us with what scientists call supernormal stimuli. These are like exaggerated versions of natural rewards that hijack our ancient brain circuitry.
Like junk food.
Perfect example. Our ancestors evolved to crave salt, sugar, and fat because they were rare and vital for survival. Food companies now engineer foods with unnaturally high combinations of these, plus textures like dynamic contrast, think crunchy and creamy together like an Oreo. Our brains just go crazy for it because it promises a huge reward payoff that wasn't possible in nature.
And it's not just food, is it? Social media likes, idealized ads.
Right. Social media gives us more social validation cues, likes, comments in 10 minutes than our ancestors might have gotten in a month. Advertisements show us hyper-idealized versions of beauty or success. These things are engineered to be intensely attractive to our basic drives.
And dopamine plays a big role here, doesn't it? It's not just about the pleasure after you do something.
That's a key insight. Dopamine is released much more strongly in anticipation of a reward than during the reward itself. Think about gambling. The big dopamine spike happens before the bet is placed, during the anticipation. Or drug addiction, seeing the substance triggers a bigger dopamine rush than actually consuming it sometimes. This anticipation is what drives the craving, the motivation to act.
So how can we use this? How can we make good habits more attractive?
One clever strategy is called temptation bundling. You link an action you want to do with an action you need to do. Like that student, Ronan Byrne, who hacked his exercise bike to only play Netflix if he was cycling above a certain speed.
That's brilliant. He bundled the want Netflix with the need exercise.
Exactly. So you could apply this yourself. Maybe you only listen to your favorite podcast while you're doing chores, or you only get that fancy coffee after you've done your morning workout. You pair something you find attractive with the habit you want to build.
And another huge factor in attractiveness is our social nature, right?
Yeah.
We want to fit in.
Hugely. We're fundamentally herd animals. We have this deep primal urge to belong, to connect, to earn the respect of our peers. So we imitate the habits of 3 key groups. 1, the close, our family and friends. Their habits rub off on us profoundly. Studies show things like obesity, even happiness, can spread through social networks. If your partner starts exercising, you're more likely to. We had that example of the MIT class where 4 out of 10 students became astronauts. Being surrounded by high achievers clearly influenced them.
Okay, so the people closest to us.
Yeah, who else?
2, the many.
The prevailing culture or tribe. We have a strong bias towards conforming to the group norm. Think about checking Amazon reviews. We trust the wisdom of the crowd. There was even a study with chimps where one learned a less efficient way to get food just to copy the method used by its new group. Fitting in often overrides efficiency.
So going against the grain of your culture takes extra effort.
It really does. And third, we imitate the powerful. People with status, prestige, success. We copy their strategies, adopt their behaviors, hoping to achieve similar results.
So putting this together, one of the most effective ways to make a desired habit attractive is
join a culture where that desired behavior is the normal behavior. Surround yourself with people for whom that habit is already attractive and common. Think of the Polgar sisters, the chess prodigies. They grew up in a family totally immersed in chess. It wasn't weird. It was normal, expected, celebrated. That environment made intense chess study attractive.
your shared identity reinforces your personal identity.
Precisely. And you can also work on reframing how you think about a habit's cues. Alan Carr's famous Easy Way to Stop Smoking book does this brilliantly. It doesn't just rely on willpower, it systematically helps smokers reframe the act of smoking, making the cue seem unattractive, even ridiculous. It changes the craving.
So you start to see it differently. I'm not giving something up, I'm gaining freedom.
Exactly, it shifts the narrative. And remember, most cravings are surface-level expressions of deeper underlying motives. You don't crave scrolling Instagram, you crave connection or maybe avoiding boredom. You don't crave pizza, you crave satisfying hunger, maybe comfort. Habits stick when they successfully address these underlying motives in an attractive way.
Can we consciously change how we feel about a habit?
Yes, you can. A simple mindset shift can be powerful. Instead of thinking, ugh, I have to go for a run, try reframing it as, I get to go for a run, my body is capable. It shifts it from a burden to an opportunity. Gratitude is a powerful reframing tool.
Like that story of the man in the wheelchair saying he felt liberated by it, not confined. That's a profound reframe.
It really is. Another technique is creating a motivation ritual, something you do right before the habit you want to build. Like Ed Lattimore, the boxer, who puts on headphones sometimes with no music just before he starts writing. That act became his cue for focus.
Or your old pregame baseball ritual. It associated certain actions with getting into game mode.
Exactly. It makes the start of the habit more attractive because it signals a shift into a desired state.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Law 1, obvious. Law 2, attractive. What's law 3?
Law 3, make it easy. This one is crucial because we are naturally drawn to the path of least resistance. And the first key here is distinguishing between motion and action.
Motion versus action. Okay, what's the difference?
Motion is when you're planning, strategizing, learning. It feels productive, like researching the best workout plan or outlining an article. Action is the behavior that actually produces an outcome.
Yeah.
Doing the workout, writing the article.
And we can get stuck in motion.
Easily. Motion lets us feel like we're making progress without the risk of failure that comes with actual action. It can be a sophisticated form of procrastination. The goal is to move from motion to action as quickly and often as possible, because habits form through repetition, through action.
That's about reps, right? The more you do something, the more automatic it becomes.
Exactly. Neuroscientists call it automaticity. Neurons that fire together wire together. The more you repeat an action, the more the brain streamlines that pathway, requiring less conscious effort. Frequency is key.
And this ties into the law of least effort. We just naturally gravitate towards easy.
Absolutely. It's fundamental human nature. Look at history, like Jared Diamond explained in Guns, Germs, and Steel. Agriculture spread much faster across Eurasia than the Americas, partly because Eurasia is oriented east-west, meaning similar climates allowed crops and animals to move easily. The Americas' north-south axis created more barriers. Path of least resistance.
So to build good habits, we need to reduce the friction, make them as convenient as possible.
Yes. If you want to go to the gym, choose one that's literally on your route home from work. Don't pick one that requires a detour. Think about incredibly successful products today. Meal delivery services, ride-sharing apps, online shopping with one-click ordering. They all succeed by making things easier, reducing friction.
Even governments use this. Didn't the British government boost tax collection just by making the payment link easier to find?
They did. Simplifying just one step, reducing that tiny bit of friction, made a measurable difference in compliance. Small changes in ease can lead to big changes in behavior.
So how can we actively design for ease in our own lives?
One powerful technique is priming the environment, preparing your space to make future actions easier. Like that developer, Oswald Knuckles, who resets the room. After watching TV, he puts the remote back, tidies the pillows. It's not just cleaning, it's prepping the environment for the next intended use, making it frictionless.
So for you listening, want to eat a healthy breakfast? Set out the bowl, spoon, and oats the night before. Want to work out first thing? Lay out your gym clothes. Want to draw more? Leave your sketchbook and pencils out on the table.
Reduce the number of steps between you and the good habit.
And conversely, to break bad habits.
Increase the friction. Make them difficult. Unplug the TV after use and put the remote in another room. Leave your phone in a different room overnight. Delete social media apps from your phone, forcing you to log in via a browser. Even small bits of friction can be enough to deter a bad habit in the moment.
It's about understanding these decisive moments, too, isn't it? Those small choices that dictate the next chunk of time.
Yes. Habits are like entrance ramps onto a highway. Once you start down a path, it influences where you go next. Choosing to order takeout versus starting to chop vegetables is a decisive moment. It sets the trajectory for the next hour or two. Mastering these small, pivotal choices is key.
Which leads perfectly to the 2-minute rule. This sounds almost too simple.
It does, but it's incredibly powerful. The rule is, when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. So read every day becomes read 1 page, do yoga becomes take out my yoga mat, run 3 miles becomes put on my running shoes.
You're just focusing on starting.
Exactly. It's about mastering the art of showing up. You can't improve a habit you don't start. This makes it so easy to start that you can't really say no. It's a gateway habit. You standardize the beginning, make showing up automatic, then you can optimize and build upon it later.
Okay. Obvious, attractive, easy. What's the fourth and final law?
The fourth law, make it satisfying. This closes the habit loop and tells your brain, do that again. Remember Stephen Luby's work in Pakistan trying to get people to wash their hands more? Disease rates were high.
Right, and just telling people wasn't enough.
No. But when he partnered with P&G and introduced Safeguard soap, which lathered well and had a pleasant scent, hand-washing rates soared. Why? Because the soap made the experience itself more satisfying. Same reason chewing gum makers added minty flavors or toothpaste makers added foaming agents and flavors. It makes the immediate experience more enjoyable, more satisfying.
So this brings us to the cardinal rule of behavior change.
Which is, what is rewarded is repeated. What is punished is avoided. Simple. But there's a critical nuance for habit formation. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided. The immediacy is key.
Why is immediacy so important?
Because our brains evolved what scientists call an immediate return environment. For most of human history, the focus was on immediate threats and rewards. Finding food, escaping predators, seeking shelter now. Our brains are wired to prioritize immediate gratification.
But we now live in a delayed return environment.
Mostly, yes. You work today, but the paycheck comes later. You study now, the good grade comes later. You save now, retirement security comes much later. And this creates a mismatch. Bad habits, like smoking or eating junk food, often give immediate pleasure, but the negative consequences are delayed. Good habits, like exercise or studying, often feel like a sacrifice now, and the rewards are delayed.
So our brains naturally favor the bad habits because of the immediate reward.
Often, yes. Delaying gratification is harder work for our modern brains, even though it leads to better long-term outcomes. It's the road less traveled.
Okay, so to make good habits stick, especially those with delayed rewards, we need to find a way to make them feel successful immediately.
Exactly. Even a small feeling of satisfaction right away can bridge the gap until the long-term rewards kick in.
And habit tracking is a great way to do this.
It's a fantastic tool, like Trent Dursmid, the salesman who moved a paperclip from one jar to another after each sales call. That simple visual progress was immediately satisfying. Or Jerry Seinfeld's don't break the chain method for writing jokes every day. Marking an X on the calendar provides immediate visual proof of accomplishment.
So tracking works because it makes the habit obvious,
Yeah.
the tracker, attractive, shows progress, motivates you not to break the streak, and satisfying gives immediate feedback.
Yes, it hits multiple laws.
What happens if you do miss a day? Does it ruin everything?
Not at all. This is where the never miss twice rule comes in. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new, unwanted habit. The key is to get back on track as quickly as possible. The first mistake rarely ruins you. It's the spiral of repeated mistakes that follows. Even if you have a bad day, try to just not put up a zero. Do something, even a tiny version of the habit, to keep the momentum, to keep those compound gains ticking over.
That's really encouraging. But is there a downside to tracking?
There can be. It relates to Goodhart's law. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. If you become obsessed with the number itself, say steps on a pedometer or pounds on a scale, you might start optimizing for the metric in ways that undermine the real goal, like sacrificing sleep to hit a step count or using unhealthy crash diets.
So focus on the purpose behind the metric, not just the number itself.
Exactly. Keep the bigger picture in mind.
Okay, one more strategy for making things satisfying, or rather, making bad habits unsatisfying immediately. Accountability.
Yes. We generally care about what others think of us. We don't like to be seen letting others down. Roger Fisher, the negotiation expert, had that extreme hypothetical idea about the nuclear codes being implanted next to a volunteer's heart. The ultimate, immediate, horrifying consequence to make inaction impossible.
Okay, maybe something slightly less dramatic for everyday life.
Yes. A more practical version is having an accountability partner, someone you report your progress to. Or even better, a habit contract. Like Brian Harris, who made a contract with his wife and trainer to lose weight. It included specific goals and penalties if he failed, financial penalties, even having to wear the jersey of a rival sports team.
Ouch. That adds immediate social cost or financial cost to failing to act.
Precisely. It leverages our desire to maintain a good reputation and avoid immediate negative consequences. It makes the cost of skipping your good habit immediate and painful, counteracting the delayed nature of its benefits.
All right, those are the 4 laws. Obvious, attractive, easy, satisfying. What about taking things to the next level? Mastery.
Well, once you have the basics down, mastery involves a few more layers. First, playing the right game. Genes and natural talents do matter, not in determining your destiny, but in suggesting your areas of greatest opportunity. Think Michael Phelps versus Hicham El Guerrouj, both incredible Olympic champions, but with vastly different body types suited to swimming versus middle distance running. They excelled because they found a field that fit their natural predispositions.
So it's about self-awareness, asking yourself,
Yeah.
what skills seem to come easier to me than to others? What feels like fun to me but work to others? Where do I get greater returns on my effort?
Exactly. Aligning your habits with your natural inclinations makes success easier and more satisfying. Then, you need to operate at the right level of challenge. This is the Goldilocks rule. Humans experience peak motivation when working on tasks that are right on the edge of their current abilities. Not too hard, not too easy, just right.
Like Steve Martin developing his comedy routine.
Perfect example. He didn't try to jump from beginner to superstar overnight. He constantly added just a little bit more complexity, a slightly newer joke or routine, keeping it challenging enough to be engaging, but not so hard that he failed constantly. That sweet spot is where you find flow states, where you're fully immersed in making progress.
But even in the flow state, won't things eventually get boring?
Yes, boredom, perhaps the greatest villain on the path to mastery. An Olympic coach told the author that at the elite level, everyone is talented, everyone works hard. The ones who succeed are the ones who can handle the boredom of training every single day, doing the same drills over and over.
So professionals stick to the schedule even when they don't feel like it.
They fall in love with the boredom, in a sense.
Mm.
They understand that mastery requires showing up even when the excitement fades. Amateurs let life get in the way. Professionals stick to the plan.
And finally, to keep improving and avoid plateauing.
Reflection and review are crucial. You need systems to check if you're still on track and making progress. Like Pat Riley's career best effort system with the Lakers. They tracked key individual stats and pushed players to improve by just 1% over their previous best. That relentless focus on marginal gains, even at the highest level, led to championships.
So for us, that could mean doing an annual review or maybe a weekly check-in, asking, am I living in alignment with my values? Am I becoming the person I want to be? Where can I improve my systems?
Exactly. It brings it back to identity, but also keeping that identity flexible. Don't tie your whole self-worth to being a CEO or a writer or an athlete. Circumstances change. Instead, define yourself by broader traits. I'm the type of person who is resilient, creative, reliable, loves learning. That kind of identity can adapt and endure.
So wrapping this all up, we've journeyed through the power of these tiny atomic habits. It really boils down to that compounding idea, doesn't it?
It really does. Think about that question. Can a single coin make you rich? Of course not. But add another, and another, and keep adding them consistently. At some point, you cross a threshold. The cumulative effect of those small additions transforms everything.
Your life is transformed by what started as one small change, compounded over time.
Exactly. Success isn't really a goal to be reached. It's a system to be improved, continuously refined, an endless process.
And the 4 laws make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. They're the tools you can use right now to build better systems in your own life.
They really are the levels you can pull to engineer your behavior and shape your future.
It's quite empowering when you think about it, what you can build if you just keep going.
And maybe the final thought for everyone listening is this. Small habits don't just add up, they compound. So what remarkable things could you build in your life, starting today, if you just commit to making those tiny, sustainable, unrelenting improvements and simply don't stop?